Mario final boss fights are all over the place in quality. Even with Bowser taking the spotlight 90% of the time, he's got plenty of gimmicks up his sleeve that range from menacing as hell to... Today, we're gonna look at the final boss fight in every mainline Mario game and rank them from peak to bleak. The original Super Mario Bros. Game introduces the King Koopa, and each world ends with a fight against a look-alike, which more than prepares you for the last encounter versus the guy himself. He throws a bunch of hammers and breathes fire, which makes him the most competent yet, but still not very challenging. If you show up with a fire flower, you kill him no problem. With a mushroom, you can just tank a hit and knock down the bridge, and even with nothing, some decent timing will do the trick. It's anticlimactic, and feels stale for being a slight variation of every other fight in the game. This is bleak, and same thing for the lost levels, even with the little fire bar they added. Now, the castles that lead to these fights are a completely different story, so if you want to see a video ranking each of those, let me know below. The US Mario 2 introduces a brand new villain to terrorize Mario, Wart. But right before that fight commences, you fight the bird whose mouth you've been crawling through, which is a really fun twist. Did no one else question why this was the gateway between levels? All you do is pick up these mushroom-looking things and toss them at him a few times, which is how you beat most other bosses in this game, so it works. Now, Wart himself is a good bit trickier. Bro does not want to eat his vegetables, but for some reason, they're spewing out of his royal quarters. I think that's another term for his butt. But between his bubble attacks, you toss these into his mouth to deal damage. The timing of these vegetables can be tough, especially with the attack coming during that opening. It makes for a very unique ending, which fits the tone of the rest of this game quite well. I'll place it in mid-tier. It has some difficulty and new ideas, but it's still a pretty weird finale, and the reveal that it was all just a dream afterwards really devalues everything we just did. Super Mario Land caps off with another unique villain, Tatanga, and it's a very underwhelming last fight. For a platforming game, you'd hope the last enemy would at least require some jumps and tight timing, but here you're locked into a vehicle and are forced to fly around and spam shoot at the dude. It doesn't play bad, but it's basically a one-off gameplay style for this fight and the level that leads to it, which isn't the right way to end the game, and it's pretty damn easy too. On a tiny little Game Boy screen, it can be hard to see everything and therefore offer some challenge, but playing on Nintendo Switch Online or any kind of halfway decent screen, it's mindless. I won't say bleak though, it tries to be different and just isn't all that good, so... Mario Bros. 3 finally brings Bowser back for a pretty distinct final battle. This time, the ground is made of breakable blocks, and Bowser throws his ass around trying to crush you. He breathes some fire at you, which is easily avoidable, and if you line up his ground pound with the center of the arena 3 times, he breaks through and falls to his demise. It's cake, and the fact that it caps off one of the hardest final worlds in the series makes it that much more anticlimactic. It tries but fails. Mario World's final boss means business. The grand entry Bowser makes with the tension and music building sets the stage to his reveal super well. There's a lightning storm going on in the background, he's flying around in a clown car, does this fire rain attack, shoots giant cannonballs, and tosses Mecha Koopas down at you, which you can stun and proceed to throw back up at him to deal damage. And the little animation he does when he gets hit is so funny, I love it. He has a fantastic variety of attacks here, more than any previous game by a long shot, and the build up to this fight is pretty similarly on a tier of its own. My favorite part though is that Peach is actually here for the fight, being held up in Bowser's aircraft, and she occasionally throws down power-ups to help Mario, which is more than she usually does. She's not an afterthought, you can see Bowser holding her captive, and that brings the stakes up way higher. For a classic 2D Mario finale, this screams peak. Mario Land 2 introduces a new villain, Wario. He takes control of Mario's entire island, including his castle, so when the two finally meet face to face, you best believe this boy getting his world rocked. The first phase is stupid simple. He runs back and forth and makes stuff fall from the ceiling, and jumping on him 3 times makes him run over to the next room, where he gets powered up by the bunny ears and starts flying all over the place. Still though, it's straightforward, and after one last outfit swap to the fire flower, he's handled in no time, which makes him burst into tears.
What a baby.
I like that he uses all of Mario's power-ups against him, and it's fresh to see a final boss that's the same species as the hero for once, but for as cool as Wario being the main antagonist is, it's style over substance. Despite Yoshi's Island featuring Baby Bowser as the final boss, it's the most menacing battle against him we've had yet. The first phase, though, is against the Tiny Koopa himself, and it just seems a bit unfair. He slams on the ground to make it shake, and if we dodge that and do it back at him, he's KO'd. But then Kamek juices him up with some pixie dust and makes him a giant monster, which is pretty freaking intimidating for a child. He breathes massive fireballs at you and slowly thins out the platforms you have to jump across. Implementing some actual platforming is great to see here, and by the end, avoiding his attacks requires a fair amount of precision. Defeating him just requires you collecting the big eggs that fly your way and sending them back at him, which can be tough while you're multitasking. And at the end, he charges at you, and you have to fire these things at him as quickly as possible. This has all the makings of a peak final boss, so I'll give it the respect it deserves. Mario 64 has super iconic Bowser battles. When the camera slowly pans up to his face and that classic battle theme kicks in, you know what's going down. You fight the guy 3 times throughout the game, and each one gets progressively more difficult, but not necessarily better. The first one teaches the concept of these battles, throw the big guy into bombs, and the second has him start breathing fire, teleporting to different parts of the stage, and tipping the entire platform to try and make you fall off. The third and final one introduces new stuff too, with Bowser jumping and creating these rings to avoid, and smashing the arena into a tiny star platform to end the fight, which really shows the dude's power, but in my opinion, not as much as that second fight does. It's definitely harder, but doesn't intimidate as much as making the ground beneath you jump all over the place. It seems unstable and feels more like you're at his mercy. But details like the rainbow tint and the more orchestral and grand music make everything else about this battle stand out a hell of a lot more. I was never a fan of the whole spin Bowser and aim for the bomb mechanic, but there's no denying this is an excellent finale, and same thing for the DS remake, even if it doesn't quite capture the same vibe as the OG one. Mario Sunshine's final boss is just kinda okay. It's the first time you see Bowser himself in the game, which makes the moment feel much more special than 64's. But the battle itself, even with both Bowser and Bowser Jr., just doesn't play well. It revolves around using the rocket nozzle. You run around Bowser's bathtub, avoiding bullet bills and fire, and slam down on these different targets. Don't ask me why he has weak points built into his tub with icons saying, "hit me here." I don't know. Not having the hover nozzle makes maneuvering this crumbling arena much more difficult, which I guess is what they were going for, but they should have built a challenge more focused on the main gimmick of the game, not this underused power-up. I'm all for making the finale hard, but challenge me with the skill sets I've been using throughout the game, not the fucking rocket nozzle. It gets some style points for having the father-son duo and being pretty tough, but loses some for the lack of substance, so mid. Mario Bros. DS has a somewhat unique last battle. Earlier in the game, you send Bowser into a pit of lava and watch him as he turns to bones. That is dark. But the game doesn't go back on that and say, psych, he's okay. No, Bowser Jr. collects those bones and revives them in this weird-looking cauldron, which is a solid moment. And then fighting both of them at once is handled a lot better than it is in Sunshine, with the two retaining their trademark movesets from earlier in the game and combining them to form an all-new challenge. It's great. You're supposed to take out Jr. first, and when you do, Bowser gets pissed, and now attacks with these waves of fireballs out of sheer rage, and if you avoid them and slip under him like the retro fights, you can take him down. For the game it's in, this is as good of a finale as you could ask for, and for the series as a whole, it's still an excellent note to go out on. Mario Galaxy was the first game I thought of when I thought Mario Final Bosses. The tone this game goes for is way more serious and cinematic, and this finale does not disappoint. Even ignoring the Bowser's Galaxy reactor stage that leads to this moment, which is a top tier level in Mario history, climbing this long staircase as it falls apart behind you shows there's no going back. Your fate is decided in this encounter, and it builds to be the most intense showdown of all. The fight's split into 3 phases that each take place on a different planet, which right there is dope. In the first one, Bowser sends shockwaves for you to avoid, then morphs into a rolling rock that you spin in the face of to make go spiraling across the planet so you can schmack a couple more times. Then the second part makes you whack these things into him after avoiding some fireballs and do the same planetoid smackdown, which leads to the final phase and pulls you to the core of this ball of lava. Here, he combines the attacks from previous planets and adds a new dive bomb that you can make him do right into a lava pool, which sends him running and makes him vulnerable to attacks. And that last hit being echoed a couple more times afterwards makes the moment so much more impactful, oh my god. Everything about this fight is peak cinema. Mario Bros. Wii is a pretty vanilla entry in this series, but the final boss stands out more than any other aspect of the game. It starts off by making Mario run through a hull full of fireballs like the retro games, then brings back the same old stale fight, which was only there to throw you off because Peach up there is actually Kamek, and he pulls a Yoshi's Island to make adult Bowser Godzilla-sized. He chases you through his castle while breathing giant fireballs your way that you need to break through the walls and progress, which is a cool twist. You have to precisely platform over lava while a monster's running after you and shooting projectiles your way. It's honestly the perfect way to end a 2D platformer. It's not as significant story-wise because the game has no plot, but with gameplay so elite, this has gotta go peak. Galaxy 2 is a retelling of the original through and through, and tries to go even harder for this last fight. Him being so much bigger at the start is awesome. He's just sitting up there on his throne nonchalantly, and moves the battle to planets he's bigger than, making Mario seem to be at a major disadvantage. He's got some pretty strong attacks that are tough to avoid, and hitting him requiring you to slam into these rocks that are bigger than you is pretty darn satisfying. It's not that long though. He falls into a pit, the Grand Star is presented, and Mario nabs it no problem. Okay, that was fucking sick. This last phase takes place in a void where Mario's hopping across some small rocks and once again launching him back at King Koopa. It's not as fun as the first phase, but the atmosphere and music gives it a hella climactic tone. Yeah, this is our third straight peak. Mario 3D Land takes the approach of Mario Bros. Wii and runs with it. Bowser now chases you through this 3D obstacle course, which is way more complex, and his attacks are even harder to avoid. He has an identity crisis midway through, but it only adds to the variety of ways he's trying to hit you, so it's nice. The only downside compared to the Wii version is that Bowser's a lot smaller, and with a less contained arena, it feels like you're a bit more in control. I'll take the better gameplay though. We've got another peak fight. This hot streak is unreal. New Super Mario Bros. 2 copied off Mario Wii's homework. You get the hallway again, the fake-out fight, his troops making him all big, and a gargantuan Bowser slashing at your platforms. It's still fantastic, don't get me wrong, but the rows of floating platforms you move between make his swipe pretty predictable. And sure, his statues breathe fireballs, and there's some parts where he floods the screen with fire, but you're not as much escaping him as you are waiting him out. The fact that he's looking at you head-on for the battle, though, adds to the menace factor for sure. I think it's an excellent finale. If they took a bit of creative liberty, it could have been peak. It's close. Mario Bros. U has the most underwhelming final fight in the new Super series, which I guess fits the game well. On the bright side, you get both Bowser and Bowser Jr., but it opens with the same fake out as the other games. Have some fucking identity, my god. Even with Bowser being huge, the tag team fight isn't handled nearly as well as it was even back in the DS version. It is kinda neat that you steal Jr.'s clown car and drill his dad, but the two are more than manageable. We've seen just about all these attacks before, and it's just so freaking bland. It barely tries and barely escapes Bleak tier, and same thing for Luigi U, they copy-pasted over the same fight. Mario 3D World is a bit of a weird one. I love when enemies use your power-ups against you, but Bowser turning into a cat, that's pushing it. It's mostly a vertical fight where you're supposed to climb around and platform as Cat Mario while avoiding the oh-so-menacing Meowser. There's plenty of different ways he attacks you, and the spectacle moment where you're going through a clear pipe as he's multiplying and chasing you up the building is really cool. It's the first time in the series where you've had multiple Bowsers going after you at once, and while that sounds super difficult, it's more visually impressive than anything. I'll say it's an excellent finale. Like I've said, a fight that blends into a stage is my cup of tea, and with the focus on cats in the game, they kinda had to do something with it. And even still, it manages to feel like a somewhat threatening Bowser fight. Mario Run does about as much as it can with the final boss. It's a tough level, and all you do is avoid obstacles as normal and send the bombs back at Bowser to deal damage. The game overall is just kinda okay to play, and this fight is no exception. It tries to capture the same feel as a regular Mario boss, and fails because it's on a smartphone. Mario Odyssey ends with Bowser and Peach's wedding being so rudely interrupted by the plumber, and in classic cartoon fashion, a trapdoor sends Mario into the abyss, and Bowser follows shortly after in his dapper wedding attire. Hanging Peach by the ring he got her is cold, and the fight that breaks out afterwards is pretty freaking special. When Bowser throws his hat, you stun it with yours, contract head lice, and approach Bowser with your new boxing gloves. He's got the iconic shockwaves when he jumps, this time they're fiery, and he throws random balls of rubble at you that he just spawns out of thin air, but getting to him lets you start throwing haymakers. The first hit's a bit of a freebie, but the intensity really picks up from there, and the attacks between phases are especially tough to get through unscathed. The one gripe I have with this, and it's a minor one, is that it doesn't use any captures, but the segment that commences right after the battle has Mario take control of Bowser and run through the crumbling innards of the moon. Don't lie, the first time you saw this, you were surprised in the best possible way. What a killer way to go out. Control the villain and wreak some havoc, hell yeah. The fight is excellent, but the moment after pulls it into peak. What an ending. Bowser's Fury preps you for the final battle throughout the playthrough. When Fury Bowser attacks and you collect the Giga Bell, you get a few hits in here and there, and at the end of the game, you can finally defeat him all at once. Even though this incarnation of Bowser is probably the most terrifying ever, Mario gets powered up to be right around his size, so it doesn't feel as stacked against him as usual. And with all the practice you got, it's a pretty easy battle. Fun for sure, and unique given you're the same size for once, but still easy, especially when you can start with his health bar already depleted. The second phase changes things up a good bit though. Once Bowser's body's rid of the darkness, you hop on Plessy's back and chase after him to retrieve all the Giga Bells. Some of these attacks are tough to avoid, and using Plessy, your rideable companion for the rest of this game, in this moment kinda rocks. Overall, it doesn't belong up with the best of the best, but it is a pretty excellent finale. Mario Wonder's final boss is gimmicky. Bowser's now a castle for some reason, but this battle has mad flair. It's all about timing your jumps with the beat so you can get even higher and land some hits. It's one of a kind, and from the outside, with all the impressive looking attacks and visual candy, you'd think it's top tier. Bowser is groovin' after all, but the gameplay leaves a bit to be desired. You're just waiting around for the beat and avoiding some tame-ass obstacles. If you can time things somewhat well, this'll be a breeze. Honestly, it was underwhelming to end the game with after all the creativity jam-packed into the rest of the experience. It's going style over substance. And there you have it.